Can men come and realize, you know what, I kind of like the way this is done? Is there a way to get back to that place? Will there ever be a revival where men are like, I remember how this was done and I like it this way. And there's something special about male leadership, like a man being a man, so to speak. What would you say in terms of helping people understand the Bible? I think we need leadership, and it's obvious. You need a shepherd for your flock. What would you say is the state of our leadership right now, male leadership?
I think one thing you have to look at when it comes specifically to the male leadership in the church is the proportion of men you have in the church and the proportion of men that you had in the church. Because from some of the things that I've been studying, looking at that is not associated with the church at all. And it's very interesting to me because they're talking about society issues that are coming up. And the one person that was specifically talking about it is like men that are quote unquote high value, depending on what you consider high value is. But one thing he said to me that was very interesting is that the church is losing these men drastically. And this is someone who was raised in the church. Now, I do not know if he is currently still attending or what the situation is there, but it's just like, if you are losing all these men that are seen by society as a certain way, but they're leaving the church, you have to figure out why they're leaving the church. But here, the one thing I see as an effect of that is that they left the church. They are no longer putting their resources and their time into the church, which means the quality of leadership that is in the church is probably declining.
Why do you think they're leaving?
I think the church has not done a very good job in promoting masculinity within the church.
What would that look like to promote that in a church setting?
See, and it's kind of interesting because, like, even if you read Wild at Heart, even then, so that book is probably first read it 15 years ago. And it was scary then in that you would go up to women in the church and you ask them, what did they think of the men in the church? A very common answer was, oh, they're nice. Leaders aren't nice people. Leaders get things done despite the situations that are around them, despite the people that are around them. Leaders can be nice, but leaders, if they're really getting stuff done, they don't care about feelings. They care about results.
You think more of a tough love?
Well,
you say they're not loving, but is there even any room for tough love?
I think part of this comes back to is like what Nathan was saying here. It's feel good. Everything is feel good. Men and women are made differently. Men are results orientated, whereas women are more in tune with feelings. Like, you can look at the studies, you can look at that. And yes, gender roles, whatever, men and women are different. They're biologically different. It's a thing. And like, yeah, we can go into what the whole thing about whether or not female leadership should be in the church or not, but that is a very deep rabbit hole to go into. But it's just like, as a boy growing up in the church, I was never told to be strong. I was never told to be dangerous. Be nice.
Or it might have just been kind of a silent, if you didn't hear it, like from a leader or someone, it sort of, the church kind of has adopted sort of the culture, like our Western culture, which is guys just are expected to suck it up and just be strong all the time, silently, right? Not necessarily talk about it, because like guys aren't acknowledged very much, like in society, just in culture, period.
Well, it's always funny to me because, like, even if you look at it from an evolutionary standpoint, and you could look at it to, that doesn't apply to biblical stuff or anything like that. Well, one thing I look at is, what is science? Science is the study of how great of a creation we live in. So evolution has some holes in it, but that can be figured out. But there are things that have been shown in evolution, they're still studying the creation. But from an evolutionary standpoint, between men and women, men are not as necessary for the survival of the species as women. You can see that in mammals all around the world. And so you look at that and it's just like, well, what have we done as a society to do that? And specifically, I think that's one thing that Christianity has really pushed is monogamy. Without Christianity, I do not know how widespread monogamy would be, because even if you look at it from my understanding, and I don't have a lot, so if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but even as in Islam, there is an allowance for polygamy. There is an allowance for a man to have multiple wives. From my understanding of it is, if you can support women or multiple wives, but you can't show favoritism to them. So if you buy one a house, you have to buy another one a house. So again, I don't know. I might be understanding this wrong, but if there's even that option.
Well, today's culture is kind of also butchered like the traditional family, right? Like it's kind of like anything goes. You know, it's not even, it's gone so far the other way.
Well, you look at it and the family is under attack.
Oh, 100% it is.
Like,
and
when you have political ideologies that have specifically say they want to get rid of the nuclear family, and they are popular political ideologies, it's like, okay, well, what's going on with this? Like, why is this under attack? And it's sad because when I see parts of that ideology is not only accepted by the church, but is even practiced in the church.
Is this too late? Can there ever be like a revival, I guess, sort of say a revival of men leading like men? Can men come and realize, you know what? I kind of like the way this is done. Is there a way to get back to that place? Will there ever be a revival where men are like, you know, I remember how this was done and I like it this way. And there's something special about male leadership, like a man being a man, so to speak.
I think I can definitely speak to that topic just personally. I don't want to go into too much because it's not on the topic, but I'm part of a ministry right now that is definitely, it's empowering guys to be leaders in the church, be leaders in their household, really trying to build up and just dealing with some of the issues for guys. Like, I mean, girls struggle with it too, but definitely predominantly a guy issue. But to the ministry, I'm part of a small group right now that meets on Tuesdays, and it's an all guys group, and we're being led by a guy in his 60s, and it's called Restored Ministries. But anyway, it's exploding. The ministry has so much work and so many people wanting to become part of it. They can't find enough people to be involved. Like they're always looking for more people to be involved. And I mean, that's just obviously a small sliver of the American church, but it gives me some encouragement that in some places we are seeing a revival, and we have to bring those movements of revival out into the open, into our church, into all of our churches, and hopefully ministries like this will start to have an impact. You know, I think, and so there is a sliver of hope. I don't know how big it is, but definitely there are moves being made in that direction.
And like he talks about one, I mean, like even if you look about it, here in North America, there's a huge organization that has been kind of on this for generations at this point. And even if you look at Promise Keepers, but it's interesting to see that Promise Keepers, like 20 years ago, they were filling stadiums. Now they're only filling churches. Like, don't get me wrong, they fill churches that are a small size, so you can still get 1,000 people in that thing, but 1,000 people versus 5,000 people, that's a lot to lose within the last 20 years. And sadly, a lot of what's happening is you see the guys, like, because I've gone for multiple years, and you see the same guys over and over again, and you don't see new ones, or very few new ones. And it's just like, you ask if there's going to be a revival. Well, if I didn't believe in revival, that would mean I would put a very big limitation on the God that we serve, because, well, it's up to him. And if there's enough prayer and petitioning and work, he will cause revivals. I mean, you look at the revivals that have happened in the past, and they have changed societies. And it's just like, yeah, the church is undergoing some changes right now. But I think it would not be strange for a revival to happen soon, but I also think that there is a lot more tribulation that the church is going to go through before we see that revival.